When I was a little girl, I used to love snuggling on my dad's lap while he read me fairy tales. Not surprisingly, I grew up wanting the fairy tale. To be happily married with beautiful kids, a gorgeous home, and a great career by 30. I never dreamed I would turn 40, unmarried, no children, and living in my sister and brother-in-law's spare room. For my ego, this was a scary tale. So I hid in the spare room, eating ice cream and binge watching Netflix. On his chair, have you ever noticed that at your worst, you always run into someone at their best? I had dragged myself to the shops just to get more ice cream, thinking no one I know is going to be there. But there she was, that friend. You know the one. Their life is perfect. And they tell you. Here I am, hand on fridge, stuck, having to hear how happily ever after she has ended up. Are you married? With kids? And your own business? And you bought a house? Me? Great. I wanted to die. I was a mess. My life was a mess. The spare room was a mess. But this was the mess where I found the last letter my dad ever wrote me. Seeing his familiar handwriting just flooded me with grief. Verity, your life is a book. And if you're not enjoying the read, write a different story. And then watch for a miracle, because I'm watching too. I shout at miracles, Dad, and how? How do I write a different story about this? To prove my point, I went to Facebook. And you guessed it, there were no stories of miserable 40-year-olds living in spare rooms. But the letter just lay there. It was like it was looking at me, almost whispering, write a different story. If anyone could write a different story, it was my dad. He wasn't a glass half full guy. He was a, aren't I lucky I've got a glass guy. When Dad was 60, he lost his job. We lost our home, and we had to live in a camper van. But the story Dad told was, we get to live like we're on holiday. He never complained that he'd gone from a corner office to selling insurance, door to door. Instead, the story he told was, I'm working on my sales skills. And the miracle that happened, Dad was Salesman of the Year, and he bought us a new home. And even in our last phone call, on his way to hospital, do you know what he said to me? Don't worry, V. You know I love breakfast in bed. Shame hit me like a bus. My whole life, Dad had been showing me how to write a different story. So I picked up my pen. I looked at that friend and I thought, 40 is going to be my best chapter. I looked at the spare room and thought, this is my safe place to start over. I looked at my love life, and do you know what I thought? I have got to stop kissing frogs. When I wrote a different story, my life began to change. I went from feeling shameful to feeling grateful. And for the first time, I stopped worrying about where I wasn't. And I started enjoying where I was. And the miracle that happened, within 6 months, I'd moved into a new cottage, much to my sister's relief. Within a year, I'd kissed a prince, much to my relief. At 44, I had a baby boy, much to my doctor's disbelief. This letter catapulted me into discovering that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what chapter of your life you're in. Something as simple as choosing to write a different story can make difficult circumstances a lot easier to deal with. Now, I think you'll agree with me when I say the last 2 years have been a rough read for us all. But we've also written different stories, ones where neighbors get to serenade each other and businesses get to pivot and innovate. And my all-time favorite was that time when we all waved our wands and bippity, your room turned into an auditorium and mine an international stage. My fellow storytellers, do you know what I've learned? Fairy tales are great to read to my son. Real life is full of detours, delays, things that go wrong. But if your life is a book, then every day you get to decide, is your story being written for you or by you? When my dad reminded me that I was the author of my life changed. So if you're looking for a change, you want a new chapter, or you just fancy a miracle, pick up your pen and write a different story. Trust me, it's going to make for a great read. Contest chair.